All right, thank you, councillors. Welcome to the Corporate Service Committee meeting held on the 19th of June in the Council Chambers at 9 a.m. This meeting will be audio recorded and those in attendance should refrain from making any defamatory statements. We'll move forward into applications for attending via video link. Please,
Mr. Chair, we have one application from Councillor Stoles to attend by video link. Is online at present.
I've got a mover. Move Councillor Shields, second Councillor Williamson. All those in favour, ayes have it. Welcome, Councillor Stoles.
Morning, gentlemen.
How is it in San Francisco today, mate?
Beautiful. The bridge is glorious this morning with a little bit of sun on the back.
Never let it be said that we don't spend enough money out at Merriwar. Going forward, have we got any apologies, please?
Just the one, Mr. Chair, from Councillor Fraser.
Mover there, please. Moved Councillor Shields, seconded Councillor Stiles. All those in favour. Carried. And disclosures of interest.
Nil received, Mr. Chair.
Nil being received. Public participation.
There's none recorded for this morning.
Wonderful. Further business in the administrative area. I'll move over to Mr. Phelps. If you could enlighten us on the financial summary and investment report, please, mate.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Welcome all. Pretty well, we'll quickly go through Corp 06.1. On page 3 of the papers, you'll note down the bottom there our financial information summary for the month ended year to date to May. The actual have a positive variance to budget of about 1.71 million compared to a negative variance of about 430,000 from the April period. A few movers coming through in regards to these items. So for the operating revenue, which is a fair chunk of the increase in the position, we're in front of budget by about $1.8 million. There is a few ups and downs within the operation revenue coming through, and we'll just quickly highlight the main items. The government place revenue is lower by 200,000. So obviously with the facility ceasing operations as an aged care provider with no residents in the facility after 30 April, there's been no revenues coming in from that facility coming through the budget. Early Learning Centre revenues are higher by about 65,000, and that's on the actual the revised higher budget that we put through with some votes earlier in the year. So that's quite pleasing. So it's continuing to maintain a strong utilisation at the facility. The camping and caravan revenue is higher by about $60,000.
Just on that, that's very positive for that business unit that we're going along like that. No childcare's a big issue within the region. Have we got a waiting list on the childcare centre, or
through you, Mr. Chair? Normally we do have a waiting list, and the girls look after that going through the year. Obviously, as it comes up to the end of the calendar year, that waiting list reduces because families leave, families come on. So sure. During the year, it does build up though.
My question is just the upward scope of business, yep.
Really. Definitely a demand there in the facility. With camping and caravan park, as I mentioned earlier, it was 66,000 in front at the moment in our revenue, a higher revenue. So the utilisation of the caravan park at Merriwar has been quite pleasing. Probably a lot to do with a lot of the renewable projects that are undertaken in the western part of the Shire. Private works revenue was up by 34,000, so there's been a good demand for third-party requests for works to be completed by council, so that's been quite pleasing. Revenue from real estate is higher by about $260,000, so we've been maintaining a good higher commercial rental aspect of our portfolio. Plus, also we received some funds for the disposal of a parcel of land out at the airport, so that also increased it by about 130,000. Waste revenue was higher by about $100,000. That's been quite pleasing. That's on a revised budget as well, so it's continued to increase in its revenue streams coming in with the disposal at the landfills. General purpose revenue was higher by about $90,000, just a little bit higher in our annual rating yield, a bit more in financial assistance grants, and a little bit extra in investment funds. So it's been quite pleasing from that. So it's relatively on budget when you look at the quantum of dollars, but it is actually pleasing to be above that quantum. Building control and town planning is higher by about 214,000. So just had a very good increase in our activities in the building and planning statutory fees, which is quite pleasing from a development point of view around the area, plus also some higher VPA contributions. So we've received on top of what we normally get in from the Mac Energy and Darbrook areas, we do get some from BP Lightsource now for this current year.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Dartbrook, what's going on there? Are they contributing VPA? I'm told that the place has been sold to a Chinese corporation. I don't know whether that's rumour or fact. I really don't know. What have we invoiced them and have we received money?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we haven't been invoicing them while they haven't been in operation, because effectively it's part of the DA. They have to be producing something from the facility. With Darbrook, we have billed them up to the first quarter of the financial year, for this current financial year, but we haven't received any cash for that billing.
Councillor Shields, I'll be meeting at Darbrook on the 24th. I'm happy to ask the question there and get back to you.
Yeah, that'd be good if you could. And I actually need to probably, I know this is not corporate services, but I'm the alternate on that committee, but with my current work arrangements I can never be there, so I might need to consider that change.
Thank you, Councillor. Moving down to our White Park revenue, lower by about $60,000. Just it's lower revenue obtained from our stabling area effectively from what we budgeted for. We may have been a little bit optimistic in our budget projections going forward for that facility for the stabling area. Camping and our normal ground fees are relatively hitting budget, which has been pleasing, and we're expecting that for next year, with a lot of our events, ticketed events, we'll be looking at the actual revenue streams generated by those and increasing our revenue streams coming through.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So stabling's not producing the revenue we expected. Have we modified that in the Depop?
We're looking at ways that we can generate further revenue from stabling coming through for the Depop. So we have marginally changed it down, but we don't want to be pessimistic. We want to actually try to achieve stabling revenues and opportunities.
Yeah, I think it's a reasonable question, Councillor Shields, because it went a reasonable question. I asked the same question in the White Park meeting, because I think the budgeted figure was 75 and we're at 22. So it's quite a significant, and quite frankly, the stables are not fit for use. So up until some point as we get the
That's
funding,
probably the reason why we're not achieving revenue.
Yeah, and so, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Aerodrome revenue, quite pleasing. It's higher than budget by about $80,000. So we're maintaining good activity at the airport with some landings coming through. Our regional road revenue is higher by $30,000, $34,000. It's received a little bit higher block grant funding from the state government to look after the main roads that link the Shire. Local roads revenue was higher by $100,000. Again, it's higher than expected due to a bit higher in financial assistance grants received this year.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just going back to airport revenue, do we expect that that's going to, that by the end of this financial year the airport will have run a surplus? Is that what we're thinking?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no.
Okay.
It will improve the actual, the cost on the community to run the facility, but unfortunately, it's a service and it's been
Yeah,
run as a
okay.
service as it is at the moment. Until we actually can generate far exceeding what revenue we're getting from the facility, it won't turn a surplus.
And my second part of that question is, my recollection is in corporate service meetings past, the Avdata mob, who apparently collect the data and I think they actually collect the money, don't they? I'm not sure. But they have been a bit tardy in forwarding that on to us. Has that performance improved?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, that's not totally correct. They will try to recover their fees that they do generate. So Avdata collect the data, they invoice our fees out to the potential landings and so forth, or the landings per se. Then from that, they collect the funds. So they'll try to recover as much money as they can from those fees, and they'll remit to us every month. So there's no holding back of any dollars or anything like that. So it's up to the actual individual landers to pay the funds.
Just, if I can probably just add, just to avoid any libel suits or something like that from Avdata, they've been a good contractor since we switched across to them. They've been very timely. I think probably what you're thinking of is we've had some operators that have been tardy in their payment, and Avdata can't pay us money they haven't collected. So that's more the situation. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. GM.
While we're there, while we're in the mess, now we have continual deficits on that there. It is a community, we offer a community service. The community service is taken up mainly by either state through emergency services issues or through private ventures. Now, we've looked at ways of dropping expenses from other private enterprises across the place. Can we nut out some sort of lease arrangement, sale arrangement, just look at different proposals where private or state or federal can, I know this is pie in the sky, but I think it's a conversation worth having over a 400,000 plus a $7 million liability out there. Yeah, I'll let the General Manager speak.
Whilst we haven't gone out for a public expression of interest, we have done some of the numbers internally. As we know, the airport will not generate an income or a surplus until there's a passenger service there. That's the simple facts. The volume of landings compared to, and the income that generates compared to the expenditure of just maintaining, which is effectively mowing and maintaining a sealed surface. That's the two big expenditure items at an airport. There is a building there, of course, but we have leased the building. Just mowing and maintaining the surface and having an ARO employed out there exceeds the cost of any income that comes in. Happy to undertake a public exhibition or seek to find out if there's anyone willing to do it. The reality is I can't see anyone being able to make that work. Yeah, so because it's just not a viable asset, and that's essentially why council has the asset at present. If there was a passenger service, the game would be a different game. We'd have people knocking on our door, probably trying to take over that facility and operate it. Happy to do it if council sort of directs to do so, but I think I know the answer already. And that's not me trying to put a dampener on things. It's just the reality of things, I think.
With a large renewable push down here, we're going to see a lot of movement of high-end trades. Is there an avenue there for passengers within that business? I mean, it's only going to be auction. Might be a little window where we might get a reprieve, but anyway.
Okay, moving down to our sewer revenue, it's higher by about 178,000. So just higher user consumption, annual and private works coming through for the sewer area. And water revenue is similar. It's pretty higher consumption charges, annual access charges, and a bit of interest coming through. So we've got a couple of votes coming through in the papers for the water side of things. Moving into our non-operating revenue and expenditure, it's behind by about 300,000 overall. So it's a little bit. It stayed relatively consistent over the last probably 4 months coming through. So we've had a major review of utilisation and hire rates. So moving into next year, we should be able to hit a lot better with our marks in regards to that and utilise our plant more efficiently.
Just on, we've discussed utilisation. How are we making those changes? What are we implementing to?
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Chair, Director of Infrastructure has gone through a review process of seeing what plant items are not being utilised to their potential. Looking at things such as operators on heavy kit machinery, seeing whether or not we have the operators to actually run our heavy kit, and whether or not those may be excess to the fleet, and we have to get contractors in. Whether we go through a recruitment process to try and get heavy kit operators, being dozers and the like, which is very scarce given the mining industry around the area. But also we're looking at our utilisation rates. So we're looking at our utilisation rates. On one hand, it's good because we'll have it in one hand, but the main user of our heavy kit is the infrastructure team. So we'll collect it on capital grant funded projects, which is quite good. The state road, we will collect our high utilisation rates on the state road, but our maintenance will be a higher cost.
Sure. So it's easy to cherry pick the heavy gear. I'll give you the chance to discuss this because I've had multiple discussions in the community, so it's probably a nice space to clear this up. But utilisation of light vehicles is apparently not well documented, and a space that we can improve a lot. So there's no point talking about graders when it's utes that are not getting booked out. Can you speak to that, or is that something you need to sort of take on notice?
We'll probably have to take that on notice a little bit from that angle. We do book out our utes from a kilometre point of view. So it's the main driver behind that recovery method. Utilisation of vehicles based on whether you can buddy up in vehicles and that type of thing, that might be of some sort of benefit. But we're looking at all the fleet. It's not just the heavy kit. The heavy kit is the main driver behind the revenue streams though. And obviously the higher priced items in our fleet. So we need to try and recover as much as we can for those heavy fleet so that we can replace them down the track. Okay. Moving into our operating expenditure, here we're underspent at the moment by about $1.2 million, so it's another hefty number coming through. Overall, our corporate admin area, it's lower by about $1.3 million, so pretty well the majority of it, and all the rest are pretty well ups and downs within the other areas, service areas of council. Main drivers behind this has been that with the fleet utilisation down, also our costs of our fleet are also down. So we've got a bit of a saving in there, about 400. Finance is in front by about 400, but there's a caveat on that on the basis that we have charged some corporate admin to a number of our capital funded projects coming through. So we've recovered a little bit extra dollars from the capital funding. And technology, information technology is lower, about 230, which is a lot of it is the timing of when we receive our consultants' works. We haven't had to use consultants as readily this year, so we've had a bit of a saving in that respect.
And just on IT, I note I didn't attend the ARIC meeting, but I noted in the agenda. Just around councillors and their security training around IT. So I just sort of take the opportunity to, well, I've got two of you here and no doubt others watching online. Sorry, I don't think so. Finish your fishing training, would you?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I have no doubt that the Mayor is sitting in his hospital bed, John Hunter, with his iPad, and he's taking careful note. So I think
I actually don't doubt you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for that impromptu push for IT security. Moving into the community services area, it's lower by about 150,000. Obviously, the change in model within that area, plus also a few staff vacancies, has meant a bit of a cost saving on the bottom line. Gumman Place, the overall costs are higher by 220. Again, with the facility closed, all the costs that we've had to expend was expended in May, so there'll be no more movement in that other than it'll just chew itself out into the end of the year. Youth services costs are lower by 88,000, again, just lower due to staff vacancies and the change in the operations of that EIPP and the youth aspect of Department of Community and Justice. Camping and caravanning is higher by 40,000, so we've had a bit of increase in our actual revenue, but we also had a bit of an increase in overall costs coming through. So that's just an offsetter against each other. Private works, again, higher costs there because we've got higher revenue coming through. Obviously, it's just an offsetter. We do still have a little bit of revenue to actually invoice out for those higher private works costs, so that we'll recover a bit of a margin in respect of those works. Scone Golf Course costs are higher by about 40,000, higher than expected costs of maintaining the course. We've had a bit of water going on there and a few unexpected costs with some pump issues, predominantly caused a little bit by the flood damage that came through, which we've tried to recover through the flood revenue side of thing, or the flood event funding. So we're waiting on that to come back and see whether or not we're successful.
Is part of that the damage to the chain mesh fence there between Bill Rose and the golf course down near the sewer works?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that will be effectively covered off in some flood event funding. So we're going through that process at the moment.
through you, Mr. Chair. So Scone Golf Course, does all the revenue go to the golf club, does it? So it's a net loss for us no matter which way we look at it?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we actually recover all the revenue from the course itself.
Right.
And we also recover about probably 90% or 80% of the actual membership fees from the golf players from the Scone RSL Club, who look after the golf committee. So effectively we are running at a loss, and it'll always run at a loss to maintain a course.
Yeah.
Unless we can lease it out to a third party. Obviously, that's the only other option that we do have available, is if we lease that course out to a third party option, we will receive probably a peppercorn type lease, but then we'd have a cost saving on the basis of not having to maintain the course.
So 2 for 1, flying golf.
Yeah.
I will say your staff down there do a tremendous job. Those greens are noted as some of the best in the Hunter Valley, and so well done to your staff that are not necessarily greenskeeper trained, but they've put themselves out there and they do a tremendous job.
Hear, hear.
Yep. Definitely we'll make that noted to them. They do a great job. It doesn't help my putting though, that's the only problem.
Anything like me, it's detrimental, especially that last one.
Moving into our stormwater maintenance area, it's lower by about 82,000. We have had a bit of a focus in the last probably 4 weeks towards going through and cleaning out a lot of our pit areas around the urban parts of town. So that will probably be utilised a bit over the course of this last 6 weeks of the year. Waste management costs are actually lower, not higher than budget by about 400,000. Just pretty well this is timing coming through. We're waiting on a couple of bills from our curbside collection, which will come through and go into that. So it'll pretty well hit budget by the end of the year.
Did they end up putting a fuel levy? Is that figure going to be above budget due to a fuel levy there, Mr. Phelps? And
Through you, Mr. Chair, could minor. It's only minor. They were actually quite reasonable with their fuel levy charge that did come through. We did look at that when it initially was instilled, and it only started probably from early in this current calendar year. So the effect on our overall budget should be minimal. Governance costs are lower by about $100,000, so just lower in general management costs coming through with some extended leave. Health costs are also lower by $54,000, again staff vacancies in that area coming through. Public convenience costs are higher by about $50,000, so we've increased those costs for the next year's budget. The cost of actually maintaining a lot of our public convenience amenities is quite challenging, especially when a lot of the work is done on the weekends coming through and at overtime rates. Planning costs are lower by $70,000. Again, just had lower than expected costs with a few staff vacancies. Also, the costs associated with the accelerated DA and the Energy Co programs have been a bit lower than we anticipated. So one, that's because of staff vacancies coming through and having the cattle on the ground to undertake those items. Building costs are lower by 68, a common theme, just a vacancy in the building certifier and surveying roles at this point. Quarry operation costs are lower by about 39,000. Reduced activity within our quarries area, and that's reflected in a lot lower revenue streams coming through as depicted in the votes that we've got today.
sorry, Mr. Phelps, just on Thought Bubble, I was at Energy Co community meeting the other day, and we had a presentation from Uralla Shire using some of that Energy Co funding in the DA department for local housing strategy and growth management strategy. Have we looked at anything similar here?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we probably have to take that on notice for the Director of Environment and Community Services to give us some sort of aspect around that. But we definitely would be looking along those lines of trying to get as much benefit from a community perspective for development of housing.
The growth management strategy was quite an interesting document. I only saw it in brief, but I just thought it was worth the mention.
Yeah, we can use that money for some of those strategic planning documents. At the present time, with the Energy Co strategy predominantly focusing on the New England area and our only impact being the work teams related to the transmission towers, the housing strategy impact isn't as strong on us as it is on some of those areas. So our focus has been more on the immediate impact to infrastructure as a result of construction costs rather than the longer term housing impacts. And we know for the transmission line, Energy Co have already told us that their intent for accommodation is to have off-site accommodation and workers' camps. So housing strategy might be the right strategy for Uralla, it may not, or for Walker, I can't remember who you said, but one of those more northern councils. It's still something we could look at, and we'll raise it with the director to just make sure that...
As I said, I was probably more interested in the growth management strategy rather than the housing.
Yeah.
It would seem more relevant to us because we definitely need to grow to a certain amount here to get the Shire enough income so we can get enough self-source income in.
Yep, no, that's fine. We'll follow it up with the director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Animal control costs are lower by about 100,000. Again, a common theme with that lower due to staff vacancies, and with that role filled in January, and there actually are advertisements out now for a second position in that area. Again, unfortunately, we weren't successful when trying to fill it the first time round. Local government regulation enforcements is higher by 38,000. We've had a contracted compliance officer in that area, obviously due to the vacancies from the animal control and health areas. So it's a little bit higher coming through. The parks and gardens costs are lower by are higher, I beg your pardon, by about $70,000. So the cost of maintaining a lot of our passive park area, as well as doing some tree maintenance, has been higher than anticipated. Just maintaining a safe environment for a lot of families within that area.
Just before we go on, Mr Phelps, the Chair was just discussing with me before the meeting commenced that he heard rumours that we've pulled back in our next year's budget on parks and gardens, and I assured him that wasn't the case. I don't know if you wanted to make a further comment in regard to next year's budget in that space.
No, we generally have a higher budget going to come through in regards to parks and gardens.
Yeah, no, that's great, and thank you for the feedback. We can take that back to community and just quell fears there.
Moving into our sporting grounds area, it's higher at this point in time by about 288,000. So the cost of servicing and maintaining the grounds has been higher than anticipated coming through. Swimming pool maintenance and utility costs have been higher by about $70,000. These are due to the higher water consumption charges and some additional costs for the repaint of Scone and Marundi pools coming through. White Park operational costs are higher by about $61,000. Just the costs associated with increased activity and at the complex over the last 4 months, with the horse festival and medium ticketed events. So as I said earlier, in the revenue side of things, we did have a good stream of revenue for the last couple of months, but moving forward, we're looking at those ticketed events to make sure that they are maintaining and exceeding those costs to run those events coming through. Aerodrome costs are lower by about $95,000. The operating model out there at the moment is working quite well in regards to the maintenance of the facility and the ARO duties, which has been quite pleasing. The RMS State Road costs are lower by $254,000. Lower than expected routine maintenance coming through, and has been offset a little bit by a bit higher than expected State Road individual price works orders, which effectively will be recovered coming through. So the budget continues to track well towards the back end of the year, so that's a quite pleasing result. Local roads admin and training costs are higher by about $176,000. With the expected salaries, it's just been higher. We've got those salaries now being reallocated accordingly into different areas within the operations. Previous 8 months has been effectively all the costs were going in there for the manager of works delivery.
Just on roads, I mean, that's our major business item, and is it possible to get a chart or a breakdown of where our costs are going in roads? So even if it was as simple as gravel and road product, wages and capital and depreciation, would that be easy enough to generate for a 12-month period?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we could generate something out of our works orders in regards to the road costs coming through and the tasks that they've been assigned to.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what sort of utilisation we're getting out of product, how much product we're putting out there, because basically that's what we're about at the end of the day, is how much product goes out on the road and how much is being charged out elsewhere. If that would be all right on that front.
Moving down into our local and regional road maintenance, costs here are higher than budget by about $400,000. We've done some votes coming through. Costs are fully expended to the full year budget or revised full year budget at this point in time. So we're pretty well limiting ourselves just on critical maintenance coming through to the end of the financial year. So we can try and retain that level of overspending within that budget. Transport auxiliary costs are higher by about 78, just the costs due to increased line marking activities coming through after the completion of the reseal program. So we'll go through and review those costs and assign those to capital works jobs. Steel costs are lower by about 45,000, so it includes some cost savings across the engineering team, which is offset pretty well by increases in our treatment activities at the moment. So we've had some savings in our admin and mains and pumping stations, but the cost of maintaining or treating our sewer plants have been exceeding our expectations. Water costs are higher by 73,000, relatively consistent to budget. It's just a higher maintenance and operational cost for the treatment activities again. So overall, we're pretty well underspent when you add them all together by about that $1.2 million.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Just going back to the aerodrome costs, the maintenance shed that was built out there, is that operational? Is that being utilised? Yep, okay.
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes it is. Moving down to our capital expenditure side of things, we're a little bit overspent in our capital area at this point in time, but a lot of it is due to items that we've undertaken and we've done votes for, as well as some timing of delivery costs coming through. So it's over by about $1 million at this point in time. So landfill compliance costs have been higher by about 100,000. So investigation and boreholes for groundwater monitoring have been undertaken, and that was a requirement by EPA, which effectively will be funded within the waste facility itself. The Coulsons Creek Road rectification works, higher by about $200,000. We did do some additional heavy patchwork out there along that road with the project while we had the guys on the ground out there. Just saved our mobilising and demobilising, and that's going to be funded through the Roaster Recovery Program. So it's a fully funded overspend there. Barrington Forest slip works were higher by 74,000. All the works have been completed in regards to that, the damaged slip works. Additional cost was corporate admin, so we put our corporate admin costs in there to recover back through from the funding body. The Scone CBD is higher by 173,000. Fully received all the funding for that project last financial year, but we had to have some required works after an audit on the heavy pedestrian access across the area in the main street, pretty well around the pedestrian crossings coming in and the traffic calming coming up to the roundabout that we've left in play down near the Thoroughbred Hotel. So unfortunately we've had a little bit of extra costs there. Murundai Mains renewals higher by 63,000. It's higher than expected cost of the renewal program. However, it's well worth the money spent. The Glenbourne Dam casing renewal, higher by about 96,000. There was just some final rectification works that had to be completed on that out at the on that pipeline on the encasement. So unfortunately, we had that additional cost.
So that now is fully completed, and we have no further works to do there?
Through you, Mr. Chair, as far as I'm aware, that is correct. So effectively adding up all those ins and outs, so we're positive to budget by about $1.7 million.
Through you, Mr. Chair, if I see the $1.7 million surplus or positive variance, and then underneath it, it says the original budget position is 3.7 negative. Does that mean that our end of year budget position should be 2 million?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's about 3,000 down below there, so it's only 3,700. So it's a pretty well balanced.
That's dollars.
That's
right?
dollars.
That's dollars, not rather than thousands.
No.
Okay, right. All right, thank you.
And through you, Mr. Chair, a lot of it is timing. So come the end of the year, when we do actually do all our accrual counting and so forth, you'll find that the positive variance to budget, hopefully there will be some available, but more than likely it'll come back to a balanced budget in the end.
Yeah, okay, all right.
And moving into just our summaries down below the major variances. So the budget position is, again, as Councillor Shields highlighted, it remains unchanged at the moment at that $3,700 amount. So we've done a lot of votes coming through into May to include, that's included in the schedules. So that's coming up to the end of the financial year. So we're moving some funds around in there, putting it back into internal reserves, as well as going through the process of deferring projects into next financial year if they aren't going to be completed coming through. Bank funds and investment report. I've just handed round an amended page coming through that's in the schedules that we will get to when we go through that. But overall, to the 31st of May, our funds have increased from the last month. It's $13.3 million in total funds. 13.2 of that is sitting in our investments at this point in time. So we did have one of the investment holdings that went above the 25% recommendation, but that was mainly due to pre-existing investments in there and the movement of withdrawal of an investment that was required.
Councillor Shields, you got a
Oh,
question?
sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just trying to clarify that mic on.
That's all right. What's our cash position, Mr. Phelps?
So moving into our external loans area, 31st of May, 25.67, which the schedule is attached. Internal loans, maintaining that the internal loans, the next in quarterly instalment will be in June, which we'll bring into account coming through. The internal loan balance at the end of June will be $3 million coming into it, which is half of the initial loan that was drawn down. Restricted assets, the schedule involved in there, just depicting out where our internal reserves and external reserves are likely to end. So we'll maintain, and effectively we have utilised some external restrictions coming through while we await some grant funding to arrive within council's coffers. And that's been discussed in regards to meetings that we've held with the Office of Local Government. Grant funding outstanding, 5.5 still outstanding. We've gone through and reviewed a lot of this. The top three there are likely to show up before the end of June, but there's been a few delays in regards to finally getting our final instalment off Main Road 358. So we're chasing that pretty hard at the moment, plus also our disaster recovery, which we received some funding, but not all funding coming through.
So that funding from state and federal for MR 358. Now is that federal funding coming through the state government? Is that how that works?
Correct. Yes. Through you, Mr. Chair.
Daisy chaining.
Yeah. So the state party will then talk to the federal component of the state government. There's a different branch that they talk to in regards to that. So the feds will provide it to the state, and the state provides it to council.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
And this is the complexities that you guys are dealing with all of the time just to keep funded.
Yes. So
and this is a project that has been opened by the minister several months ago. So, and we're still owed $1.5 million. It's a little hard to run a business as such on a, what's that, I'd call that a 120-day account.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Moving through to our capital expenditure side of things, nearing to the end of the financial year, our revised budget coming through is $30.3 million, down from the $33.9 million. Our overall expenditure to the end of May against our revised budget is 92%. So we're pretty well on track to meet our capital works program coming into the mix. Moving into our schedules that we've got attached to the report. So we have a fund and function area there. The fund more or less highlights the 3 funds that we do run coming through, and then the service areas coming into the mix on page 15 through to page 17. As you can see, there's a number of votes that are shown within the papers there, requested, which we have a schedule attaining to that. The next page, on page 18, there's a replacement page for that there. That the page that actually is in the papers is the 30th of April. That'll be updated after the meeting, and we'll put in there the 31st of May. The committee have been provided that copy, as well as Councillor Stoltz online, and we'll make that available in our revised version online. But as depicted in the amended one, you can see there's a little bit of a spike going back upwards from where we sat in April.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the vertical axis on that graph is dollars millions?
Millions.
Millions?
Yep.
Can that be added just for people like me who've got very poor memories?
We can put an axis on there.
Thank
for
you, please. That would be good.
Moving into our investments held, here on page 19, got about 13.2 as mentioned earlier in our investments. Getting reasonably good rates at this point in time, so anything's above the 5 3s, 5 2s, so that's been quite pleasing depending on the term that we've been applying these, which is very good. There will be a jump in June with some extra funds coming through. Moving into our loan schedule, here pretty well just depicts where our loans are sitting at this point in time, the $25.6 million. And then we have a capital works summary of all the projects that we've undertaken during the year and their position from a dollars point of view, coming through to the end of it. So from pages 21 through to 30, we highlight different projects within a summarised version of capital works. Moving into the next schedule, which is on page 31 through to page 36, I beg your pardon, is our movement in our restricted assets. So it's just ins and outs of that and our forecasted position come the end of the year. And our final schedule there, which is the proposed votes and surrenders coming through for the current meeting, which pretty well is a bit of a tidy up coming through in regards to projects are going to be deferred, additional funds that we've received in coming through the year, and putting them into reserves coming into the mix, so especially in the water and sewer area that's depicted. So overall, for your review.
Thank you. Could I just get you to slip back into the capital works expenditure, page 27, urban streets curb and guttering renewal, $200,000 budget, and we've spent 43,000. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
What's our budget position going forward, 26, 27 as we speak? The reason I ask this is for the first time I'm being asked more about curb and guttering than roads in the community. Now I see just for people that might have seen this, we've started works down Main Road, which is great. We've got that curb and guttering. We've done a fantastic job down Guernsey Street, and there's been some repairs up the top of Barton Street, and there's been another repair, but we've still got quite a bit of damage from garbage trucks basically, but a lot of, and just around the corner from you down Bedford Street's been terrible for a long time. But is there likely to be some sort of a commitment to work towards this a little bit stronger next year?
Yeah, through you, Mr Chair, there is an allocation again in next year's budget for it, which is effectively a couple of $100,000 again. And scheduling of that obviously will be done by the Director of Infrastructure coming through, and more or less spent for those problemed areas that, based on priorities.
Through you, Mr Chair, just another issue in Aberdeen, and I can't remember when I did it, put a CRM in about Cayuga Street, and there's some pretty ordinary roadworks there. And the former Director of Infrastructure said to me it would go into the heavy patch program for this year. I was asked the other day what's happening about that. And I assumed from what Rag told me that this year means sometime between whenever we spoke and the 30th of June, but it's still outstanding. And it is very bad. I mean, as my complainant said to me, if someone trips over that in the night, it'll be, because it's a poorly lit street, etc., it's an issue.
And that's on the northern end of Cayuga Street, is it there?
No, so it's in the better end of Cayuga Street.
Okay.
So the road, I'm not sure whether the road's sunk or whether the curb and guttering is lifted, I don't know, but they're quite out of whack. There's a significant issue there.
Mr Chair, I can't speak to that specific CRM. We'll find the CRM and find out what the Director's response was. If there's been a change of direction or something on that, we'll let you know. Yep.
So I'll just let you go through the votes there, and as long as you're satisfied with those, we can
I
take
did
to the
see
vote.
there was a vote for some maintenance up at the sale yards.
Correct.
100,000 in there. I'm very pleased to see that because that's been very problematic up there, and it does need that bit of money spent on it. So thank you for organising that, Mr GM. How are we going, councillors? Have we got any further questions or comments on the financial summary and investment report there? None to be had. Have I got a mover? Move Councillor Shields for the noting of all. Second, Councillor Stiles. All those in favour? Carried. And we'll quickly move forward to the property update. Mr General Manager.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Chair. If you look at table 1 there, it gives a summary again of our financial performance of our property holdings. Quite pleasing that year-to-date actual is looking quite healthy. In fact, our year-to-date actual for May is now already exceeded our end-of-year budget, so we will come in over budget on that one as far as income is concerned. Moving down into the individual projects, whilst we've got a number of projects that we're pursuing in parallel, the 3 big ones are Aberdeen Landholding, which councillors have been provided separate reports on. Sermon Street, which the EIY has just closed this month, and we're assessing those EOIs. And the layout for property development out at the airport is progressing as well, which will go back to the airport committee. There's a number of other ones being considered, like the Rosedale estate, but there's quite a number of hoops to jump through before we get to serious layout designs on those, or going out to public expressions.
Very good. We've got a mover to note the report. Move Councillor Stiles, seconded Councillor Shields. All those in favour? Carried. Grants report for Corporate Service Committee. We can go through that. I see a couple of successful ones there.
Yeah, good news, Mr Chair, in that of the 4 listed that we've had feedback on, the 2 highest figure ones were successful. So if you're going to get a 50% strike rate, they were the 2 to get them on. I think we did advise about the $500,000 at the last meeting. We'd just been told prior to the last meeting being held, but this is the first meeting we've reported that one back, so that's good news. And of course, the emergency works, 258,000 was successful. You can see there's a significant number of grants still in the mix that we haven't heard from, and some have been lodged for many months now and still waiting on assessment or feedback. So I can't give you much more in regard to when we will get notification on those, because we frankly just don't know in many instances. We continue to chase open funding opportunities, and we've listed a few there. We've just become aware too that the next, I think it's round 5 of the regional airport funding has become available this week. That's not listed in this report, but we will potentially have a look at that. That's a $15 million fund with available funds for individual councils up to $5 million. Now, they won't be handing out too many $5 million grants out of a fund of 15, but the funding arrangements typically around that have been either 50-50, or if you get state government contributions, they drop it to a 2-to-1 type ratio. So you have to come up with $2 for every dollar that they put in. So we'll look at that, but it does mean that we generally have to find quite a considerable amount of our own money or state money to try and match it.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So when you talk about a 2-to-1, so if the state government puts some funds in, that's part of the 2, is it?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Okay.
So their thinking is they'll give you 50% if it's just council funding it. If I get somebody to help me fund mine, they lift the ante, and effectively the assumption is that if I've got to make a 2-to-1 ratio, they're working on the assumption that the state's probably going to help you out 50%. So it's a 1-to-1-1 type ratio.
So what does that regional airport's funding allow us to do? What things are in there that they say we'll fund that, assuming you're successful?
Upgrades to your runway are the most predominant ones. So we could do drainage works or asphalt works. The runway has 3 sections on it that have a poorer subsurface than the rest of the runway, and they're the ones that need immediate attention. When I say immediate, they've got a life of between 15 and 20 years compared to 35 or 40 for the remainder of the runway, so that they need to be looked at sooner rather than later. If we do nothing to those 3 portions, they will continue to deteriorate fairly rapidly, and it limits us from even considering heavier aircraft because of the impacts that those heavier aircraft have. If we can at least get those 3 patches done, we might be able to reconsider the utilisation of that runway for heavier aircraft. So that my main focus is, whilst I'd love to have a asphalt surface over the entire runway, and that's probably a $7 million cost, which I just physically can't afford even with grant funding, my focus would be to try and achieve some sort of repair to those 3 main sections, and that's probably more in the order of $500,000 or something in that figure, which we have some money put aside, which could be used as our contribution.
I think that'd be a really positive approach, and there's opportunities out there to take other aircraft and revenue, and yeah, we don't need to do the full lot because aeroplanes don't use much of a bloody square, do they? Until we get our drag races on there, Greg. Not allowed to say that out loud. Now, just on maintenance of that facility, and I haven't stepped foot on the runway for some time, but I believe we sealed that in 2000 and...
would have been 2002, 22?
20.
I think
It was 22, so a reseal went over in 22, so we'd be due to put a top coat on in 32.
Oh yeah, look,
So we've got
you
plenty of
might do
scope there.
you might do a seal between 7 and 10 years generally. Yeah. Initially, that you remember, there were some complaints when we did the first seal that there was a lot of loose material, stones. Most of that has been addressed. There is some still loose stones. You don't get the same sweeping action on a runway that you do on a road. When you have loose stones on a road, they generally get swept fairly quickly. You have a lot more tyres per square metre
Yep.
on a road, then you've got very narrow tyres on a very wide runway. The stones just moves around on the runway. We still continue to sweep when it gets bad, so we're removing that loose stone. So yeah, it'd be some time before we'd be due for a full reseal.
So that's just stones that break free from the bitumen, what would you call it, adhesive, whatever it is, however you describe the bitumen part of it.
Yep.
So that's what you're talking about. It's just little bits of road base or whatever you call that stuff.
When you spray the bitumen,
Yeah.
it goes on as a very hot
Yeah.
spray. You roll the stone into it.
Yeah.
Sometimes more stone is applied than needed, and that
Yeah.
loose stone never gets adhered to in the first place. Other times, stone gets plucked out of the bitumen. So you've got two types of, I guess, loose stone mechanisms. Yeah.
Yeah, because the only comment that I've heard from people out there, not so much on the runway, but on the taxiways and on the hard stand area where there's loose stones, when an propeller aircraft is operating, I don't know the aerodynamics of it, but propellers get chipped by stones being picked up, and I assume somehow or other they get slammed into the propeller blade, and that's an issue.
Correct.
I'm not sure what the physics of that is, but yeah. Okay.
Very good. Any more questions or comments on the grants report? There being none, have I got a mover to note the report? Move Councillor Stoll, second Councillor Shields. All those in favour? Carried. We'll just move over, and I've lost my place, to the Airport Management Committee. They're on topic. Now, the committee held a meeting on the 22nd of April, and this is just to note the minutes of that meeting.
Most of the financial information's already been provided to you through the finance report, Mr Chair, but you'll see there that whilst there's still a deficiency of 240,000 at that time, end of March, it was a positive variance to budget. So we budgeted for a deficiency, but the deficiency has reduced.
Very good. All right, we've got a mover to note the minutes there. Move Councillor Shields, seconded Councillor Stolz. All those in favour? Carried. And on the livestock front, we'll go to the Scone Upper Hunter Regional Sale Yards Committee meeting, which was held on the 4th of June, and for adoption of minutes. General Manager, have you got anything?
Look, again, the minutes sort of speak for themselves. There's a bit of a summary on the throughput and financial performance, which are both very closely linked.
Yep.
There's been a significant increase up to the end of about May, where we're seeing up to 4,000 head, which was a record breaker. For I think it was 14,000 was the highest on a monthly basis in March, but we're seeing weekly sales in May of as high as 4,000 per week. That has really dropped off. The last 2 weeks we've seen less than 500 per week, so we're back to about 12% or so of our peak. We always anticipated that would be the pattern.
Yep.
It wouldn't last forever. Those higher sales have brought a significant financial throughput as well, so we've seen probably our best budget at the sale yards in many years. And we will probably have, we will have a surplus budget, I believe, at the end of financial year. It just means that we're already bracing ourselves for a very poor result for the 26-27 year, I believe. So we'll follow it through. We had a walk around the sale yards on Tuesday afternoon with the agents. They're still relatively optimistic that give it a few months and we'll start to see numbers returning. But the main purpose of the walk around wasn't to talk about volumes, it was more to talk about condition of the yards. We've got quite an issue with stormwater ingress into the indoor area. The design of the facility many years ago was quite deficient in getting groundwater away from the yards, and we get quite a bit of groundwater, overland flow water coming across the car park at the top in through the facility. A number of areas where water comes in the sides because of the roof effectively only comes to the very edge of the pens. It doesn't extend beyond that. And so we get, in high rain events, quite a significant amount of water coming in around the edge of the facility. There's been quite a bit of maintenance done over the last 2 weeks to try and remove poor material, get some gravel back into those exterior yards in particular, and the main runs have been cleaned out as best as possible at this stage. Still a lot of work to go on up there, and that'll continue for probably another month or more, I would say, as we progress.
Pleasing to hear that drainage issue's been quite a problem for some time, and I suppose the fortunate side of that is we've got a drainage issue because we've got a rain problem, and whenever we've got a rain problem, we've got a cattle price advantage, and so it's a very buoyant market, and you're seeing very high prices, and I've never seen the volatility of cattle numbers that we've just experienced. And even though we've sold off so many, I'm probably not quite as pessimistic about numbers for next year, because the price component's still there, and we're really dependent on weather as far as anything goes. But it has been an exceptional season, and as the General Manager said, so far we've had 72,324 head through the facility. I think last year was about 43,000.
Just under 50, isn't it?
Just under 50, so yeah, up 25%-ish. But anyway, all power to the producers and selling agents through there to keep that viable. We've got any further questions or comments on the sale yard report? If we've got to move it, a note the report there. Move Councillor Stoll, seconded Councillor Shields. All those in favour? Carried. And that's the final report on our agenda today. So if I could call the meeting closed at 10:06, please, Karen. And thank you for attending, councillors and staff, today.